Did you know that the big towing numbers that Ford, Chevy, and Dodge throw around might not mean what you think they do? Today, we're gonna dive in a little bit of that fine print behind those best-in-class towing claims that might make you feel a little misled. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name's Mike and you're watching Triple T Acres. And what I have beside me here is a 2018 Ford F-150 with the 3.5 liter EcoBoost with a twin turbocharged motor in it that has the max towing package in it. This truck is rated to be able to tow 13,200 pounds. And before you say there's no way that that truck can do that, this is what Ford claims that it can do. But there's some fine print behind that, and I was shocked when I heard what I can actually tow with this thing conventionally. Now, I bought this F-150 for the sheer fact of the versatility. This is a half-ton truck. It gets great fuel economy, and I have two specific things that I needed to be able to do. I needed to be able to tow my camper, which weighs about 10,000 pounds. It's rated to be able to tow 13,200, so I'm definitely under that. And I also needed it to be able to tow my tractor certain places. So I don't tow all the time, so I felt like this was a perfect mix of tow capacity and fuel economy. But when I found out what the actual limitations of this truck is just recently, and I've been towing illegally for the longest time, I was shocked, and I want to share that with you right now. Now we're at the back of the truck now because I want to show you where the weak link is. It has nothing to do with the motor, the braking, the suspension, or anything like that. It has to do with the hitch. This hitch is rated for 500 pounds of tongue weight and 5,000 pounds of towing capacity at conventional towing. If you go over 500 pounds on this hitch, you need something called a weight distribution hitch. Now, I'm familiar with weight distribution hitches because I have it with my camper. And in the camper world, that culture, you almost can't go to a campsite without seeing a truck towing it with a weight distribution hitch. But what I didn't know is that the towing capacity is 500 pounds of tongue weight. That is nothing. My equipment trailer weighs 3,000 pounds, and as soon as I put the tongue on here, I'm already almost at the max tongue capacity. So 5,000 pounds might be the benchmark, but you could be towing 3,000 pounds and not have that load on there correctly and have over 500 pounds of tongue weight, and you're illegal. Now, I'm gonna show you something underneath this hitch that I just noticed the other day because it's actually printed on it that you don't even have to get into your manual because they stick it right here on the side. Let me show you what it looks like. So right here's the hitch. If you look right here, weight distribution, weight carrying, and the weight's right here. So look, max tongue weight, 1,320 pounds with weight distribution, weight carrying 5,000 pounds, and 500 pounds of tongue weight. Stamped right on the bottom of my hitch. Now you may say, illegal? How could it be illegal? Well, most state laws, and I'm pretty sure all the state laws, say that you need to follow the manufacturer's recommendations or requirements. And Ford makes it very clear in the small fine print that it is not a recommendation, that it is a requirement. So if you cause an accident, if you cause injury or death, and you are towing more than 500 pounds of tongue weight or more than 5,000 pounds, you're in a pickle because you are definitely going to be towing outside the capacity of this. Now, again, I bought this truck so that it could be able to tow my camper and my equipment trailer with my tractor on it. And now I have to put a weight distribution hitch on this thing anytime I tow this thing anywhere. So right now I'm going to pull my truck up here. We're going to put my equipment trailer on there. We're going to load my tractor on there, and I'm going to show you my weight distribution hitch that I have. And I believe it is the only way that you can do this safely and correctly. It's the only weight distribution hitch or hitch on the market that actually measures tongue weight. So I'm going to share that with you today. This is so important. You may decide that you want to tow however you want to. You're going to say, hey, I'm going to continue to tow the way I have. Just understand the risk that you are taking. It's like not wearing your seatbelt. Most of the time you're probably okay, but the day that it happens is going to be a bad day. So let's go ahead and get that equipment trailer hooked up, and I'm going to show you that whole process. Oh yeah, and before your Dodge and Chevy owners say you should have bought a Dodge or you should have bought a Chevy, you wouldn't be dealing with that. You might want to get your owner's manual out, start digging a little bit, because they may use required or recommended interchangeably, but the way the law looks at it is it's exactly the same. They just make it a little more confusing, add that gray area. So put your comments below if you think I should have got a Dodge or a Chevy. Okay, so we're down here by my equipment trailer, and I'm gonna go ahead and get this hitch hooked up on here. And the hitch that I'm using today is the WaySafe weight distribution hitch. And if you're not familiar with what a weight distribution hitch is the way the hitch works is it has a couple bars that add on to it. And I'll show that to you here in a second. But essentially what it does is when you hook the trailer up to it, a couple bars connect to the tongue of the trailer. And what it does is it spreads the weight, hence weight distribution, across the front of the truck, the rear axle, and your trailer's axle. And that's how you're able to get your max towing capacity. So by putting this on my truck, I'm going to know for sure that I can tow 13,200 pounds. But I really need to know what my tongue weight is. And if you look right here on the side of the hitch, let me go ahead and put this thing on my truck. And if you look right here, there's a scale. And I believe this is the only hitch on the market that actually has a scale that's going to tell you what the tongue weight is. Otherwise, you're just guessing. You've got to know what everything weighs on there. And the reason why you got to know your tongue weight is because it needs to be 10 to 15% of what you're actually towing. Now, how the heck are you supposed to know that? You're going to be guessing all the time. And if I had to guess when I hooked this thing up, I never would have thought that I would have been over 500 pounds on this thing. 500 pounds is nothing when it comes to towing. So we're gonna go ahead and get this thing hooked up. Everything's already set up when it comes to this. So if you wanna learn how to actually set the weight distribution hitch up for you, go ahead and check out their instructional videos. But today we're gonna go ahead and get everything hooked up. I'm gonna put my tractor on here, and I'm gonna show you how much tongue weight that I have just towing a tractor. But even with me just standing on the end of this, I weigh 200 pounds. We're already about at the 500 pound mark just with me standing and nothing else on the trailer. So let's go ahead and get this thing all hooked up. Nice thing about WaySafe is everything they have is keyed and locked, which is awesome. They even have the trailer lock here. The keys go to all of the connections. Makes it really nice because these are not really cheap hitches. They are definitely a top of the line piece of equipment. But again, it's the only way that I know that you're gonna be able to know your tongue weight unless you get a scale or whatnot. But nice thing is every one of these things have a key to it, so you don't have to worry about somebody stealing it unless they have a WaySafe key. Now, WaySafe actually sells another hitch that's not weight distribution and has the scale on there. Now, I've seen a lot of people use it with their half-ton trucks, but they're not realizing what the weight capacity is on their actual trucks. Now, it's good to know what your tongue weight is nonetheless, but most trucks that are half-ton are gonna need a weight distribution hitch if they're gonna have more than 500 pounds of tongue weight. All right, we're hooked up. I'm gonna go ahead and pull this thing forward, and then we're gonna put the tractor on here, and I'm gonna show you how much tongue weight that I have. Without this weight distribution hitch, I could never even legally be allowed to tow my tractor because my tractor weighs more than 5,000 pounds, especially when it comes to adding a 3,000 pound trailer behind it. Technically, my truck would only be able to tow another 2,000 pounds on this trailer system itself without a weight distribution hitch. All right, we got the trailer hooked up here. And if we look at the scale here, we're already sitting well over 100 pounds here. I'm gonna stand on top of this tongue here, and we're gonna get 500 pounds of tongue weight, which will be the max capacity of this truck. What do we have there? Man, we're scratching the 500 pound mark, meaning I could not even put another pound on this trailer. Unbelievable. All right, again, I think that that's absolutely ridiculous that my truck now is at max capacity with this equipment trailer with just me standing on the tongue. All right, let's get the tractor hooked up here. Let's get the weight distribution set up so that this could actually be legal, and I'm gonna show you that whole process. All right, so the tractor that I'm loading this up with is an LS 35 horsepower tractor, and the tractor itself weighs about 3,400 pounds. With the loader on, we'll say another 1,200 pounds, and my rear tires are loaded, so probably around 500 pounds there. So we're looking at a little over close to 5,000 pounds of loading here. So without a weight distribution hitch on this truck, I legally would not be allowed to tow them, because again, that's without the trailer on there, and the trailer itself weighs 3,000 pounds. So I'm way over if I did not have a weight distribution hitch. All right, I pulled this thing all the way up front because most of the time when I'm going to be towing this thing, I'm going to have a rear implement on here. So let's go ahead and rest the bucket down here, and let's just see how much tongue weight I have on this trailer. Okay, so we have everything loaded up here, and this is definitely not an uncommon thing that I've seen F-150s be towing. I see a lot of landscape companies with big long trailers with tons of mowers, and I've seen four-wheelers loaded down, and never do I see a weight distribution hitch on these things. So that tells me that most people are doing this illegal because, again, 500 pounds of tongue weight is not very much. All right, let's look at see how much tongue weight I have on here with the tractor on there. Right there, I'm just under 1,000 pounds of tongue weight right there. So we're 400 pounds over the capacity of this. So now let's hook up these bars. What this does is I'll hook the bars up on here, and they'll go up on this edge, and that'll actually create tension, and then it will share the weight across the axles and the front of my truck. So even before that, let's take a tape measure and measure the distance of my wheel well there, because my truck is definitely squatting there. Let's see if it does spread the weight out there. All right, before we do the weight distribution, let's go ahead and measure this wheel well. We'll go center of the tire to roughly center of the wheel well. All right, we're sitting at about 40 inches right there. So let's see if this will actually balance the weight out. Let's go ahead and measure the rear wheel well and see if that it comes actually up. All right, so we've got a squat here. Let's measure this. The front was 40, center of tire back. We are at 38 1/4. So let's see if we gain some inches there. Okay, when you put the bars on your trailer here, what you have to do first is actually release the tension of it. So what you do is you have everything locked, and then you actually put your trailer jack down and start pulling the tension off of the tongue there. So I'm gonna go ahead and jack this thing up a little bit and see if we can get the weight to 0 on my truck. All right, I think we've lifted it enough. Now we'll put the first bar on here. They got a pin here you got to release. Line your holes up, put the pin back in. And then right here they have these ledges, and I mounted these on there. And this kind of swings in. Now what I got to do is I got to get this bar up on that, and that's why it's important to release the weight off your tongue. Now WaySafe sends you one of these tools here too. I could keep cranking and get that up, but I also could do this. Just go right under the ledge, hook onto the hole there, and then when I lift this, it'll slide the bar over top of it. Perfect. Drop your pin back in there, and then just do the same to the other side. Okay, so now we've got these bars on there, and what they're gonna do, it's kind of like a wheelbarrow. The trailer is almost like holding the wheelbarrow, and it's gonna lift up because there's gonna be a lot of tension on these bars, especially once I start letting that tongue down. Let's go ahead and start cranking this thing back up, getting all the weight back on those bars and distributing, and then we'll remeasure up front. All right, we're gonna add the weight back on here, and this again is gonna add a bunch of tension to this and then increase our scale on the tongue weight. Not actually increasing tongue weight because it's spreading it out, but the pressure is going to be different on that scale. All right, so now we're measuring over 1,500 pounds of tongue weight, but that's not actually what the tongue weight really is. So WaySafe actually has an app, and what's really cool about that is you can put all of your information. So the truck that you're using, its payload, the trailer that you're using, how much its capacity is, and you put a bunch of these different numbers in, and then what it does is it tells you to crank this thing. And what this thing does is it actually lifts the tongue up and actually adds pressure to these and distributes the weight evenly. It actually takes all of the guesswork completely out of it. It makes sure that you are towing completely safe, hence the name WaySafe, because they're the only hitch on the market that I know that gives you the scale and actually puts in all the measurements that their engineers have already plugged in to keep the guesswork completely out. So no longer guessing what my tongue weight is, no longer guessing the way my truck is supposed to be towing this, because this thing tells all of that in the app. Let's go measure. Let's see how much that the weight has actually distributed across, because I'll have to dig in and see what my measurements were, and we will compare them what they are now. Okay, well, let's remeasure the front. I looked back and it was 40 inches. Let's see where we are at now. Let's get it here centered up here. We are at 39 inches there. So it came down a whole inch. So that's really good. Let's measure the back. Okay, the back measured 38 1/4. Let's see if it actually came up. All right, we are at 39 inches. So it did come up. So it was 38 1/4 and now we're 39 inches. So we definitely gained some there too. Perfect. All right, so that's with everything on there, and it definitely looks like it's not squatting as bad as it was before. Still squatting a little bit, but it definitely looks way more safe. I'm sure the front end is not as light because that is a lot of tongue weight. It was almost 1,000 pounds of tongue weight on there, and now it should be a heck of a lot better. Now the weight is distributed across the back of the trailer on the axles and the front of my truck there too. And I actually had to plug in some of these measurements too. I had to measure from the hitch between the axles there, and then I had to measure from this to my axle there. Plugged all that information in that app, and it actually gave me those numbers that I was supposed to have to be able to crank that down to get the right amount of tongue pressure and distributed weight. Okay, now you know that your max towing capacity is not necessarily what they advertise. They give you that number based on proper towing equipment. You'll hear that with properly equipped trucks. What the realistic number is 500 pounds of tongue weight on these trucks. So don't take my word for it. Get into your owner's manual. Same with you Dodge and Chevy owners, and just make sure that you are towing properly, because you can get into really unsafe situations, and that would just be awful. Now that I know this, now that I'm not ignorant to the fact, I will always tow as safe as I possibly can using WaySafe's hitch. And again, if you want one of those, I'll put a link down in the description. They are the only way that I know that you're gonna get your real true tongue weight. So thank you WaySafe for being able to send this out to me so that I know that I could tow safely with my truck. But guys, that's gonna wrap up the video for today. I hope that this gave you a lot of information, and if it did, make sure that you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. But until next time, we'll see you in the next video.